last fall and winter, we joined up with the 2nd Battalion of the 5th Marine Regiment in one of the most hostile places in Iraq. The battalion, known as 2-5 Marines, was on its 2nd tour, and for these men, the resistance turned out to be far deadlier than the invasion itself. We first aired this story in January as the Marines were under fire in Anbar province, the heart of the insurgency. Every morning, the colors rise outside Whiskey Company 2-5 Marines, and to the flag they chain the dog tags of the men who died under the Stars and Stripes. In the war to topple Saddam, the battalion lost 1 man. In the war on the insurgency, it's lost 14, most of them from Whiskey Company. This is what he means. We were on patrol in the city of Ramadi when a rocket-propelled grenade from nowhere exploded on Golf Company. This is how the fight feels today.
Let's go!
2nd Lieutenant John McKinley is in command.
Get out there, Doc. Let's see what we got. Who is it? Johnson. Come here. Hey, it's Johnson. We need to get the high back up here.
Johnson is Private First Class Josh Johnson. At the bottom of the screen, they pull him to safety, but he's badly wounded.
Right now, he's unconscious.
Sound like it came from the north, sir. From over our head.
Roger. It sounded like it came from over our head. Not sure if it was a mortar or RPG.
Hey, get him up.
Did it come from the north?
Where it came from. Doc said he knew.
Hey, how is he, Doc? What do we got? All right, hey, let's not lose our minds here. Come here. Let me see this. Roger, he's bleeding pretty bad out of his leg right now. We need to get him out of here. He's definitely an urgent right now.
They did get him out. Johnson, with shrapnel in both legs, was medevaced to a combat hospital. He's home now in the United States, making a full recovery. One of about 150 men wounded in the battalion just since September. Golf Company never found the man with the RPG.
They're thinking that it came from the south now, sir. That's where they thought it came from, but I don't think we've gotten an essay on where it's come from.
The Marines look out on Ramadi from a base called Hurricane Point, once the grounds of a palace, now home to several hundred Americans. They venture out into the city only in combat patrols, weapons at condition 1. Magazines locked, chambers loaded, ready to fire. They leave the gate sealed in armored Humvees or ducking below the steel plate that they've welded onto open trucks. In some parts of Iraq, children chase and cheer as Humvees go by, but you don't get much of that here. Ramadi is the capital of Anbar province, home to Iraq's Sunni minority, the once powerful supporters of Saddam. We drove the main drag that the Marines call Route Michigan with the battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Randall Newman. His men run patrols to show presence, to search for weapons, and to defend this place. It's the offices of the U.S.-backed governor, scarred by mortars, rockets, and snipers.
Finishes kind of the panorama of the city.
Newman took us to the roof for what has to be the strangest city tour we've ever had.
Ramadi is a town, advertised population coming in about 358,000, so I think if I've got my numbers right, that's somewhere around the size of Kansas City. Off in the distance, you see that tall building with the chart out the window?
Yeah.
That was where a sniper was that worked on us about a month ago.
The Marines have to defend this state capital from behind sandbags and bulletproof windows they pulled from Humvees.
It makes you wonder who owns Ramadi at this point in time.
It's difficult when you're fighting an insurgency to probably say who owns anything on any given day. I think that's why the requirement to win this type of fight, it requires patience, presence, and persistence.
Persistence to get past what has become the signature weapon in this war, what the military calls an IED, for improvised explosive device, a roadside bomb. Several Marines have not survived the drive on Route Michigan, so when they're leaving the base, the superstitious squeeze good luck charms. It can't hurt. And then they dash down Michigan fast, scanning for trash or dirt that might hide a bomb. There's a feeling of determined resignation in the Humvee. It's either your day or it's not. For this patrol on Route Michigan, The luck ran out. The shockwave from the IED stopped the camera. As bad as this looks, the wounds were relatively minor. The armored Humvee held up. But it's more hazardous in the open trucks. Marines have customized them themselves. They call these weld wagons Frankensteins.
This is the gauntlet run from Hurricane Point out to the governor's office, which is just a few blocks ahead. This is Route Michigan, where most of the IEDs have occurred. In fact, there was a time not too long ago when there were as many as a dozen IEDs on this road in just one day. There's an intersection just a little bit up ahead that the Marines have nicknamed the Axis of Evil because of all of the IEDs they've encountered there.
In November, we went on several combat patrols with Whiskey Company and its commander, Captain Pat Rapico.
We will have vehicle on both sides, north and south sides.
He's an unusual Marine. Born in France, he came to the U.S. as a student. That accent you hear is part France, part Mississippi.
Whiskey 4, Whiskey 5 was going to be your escort.
His men joke about the accent, and some of them call him Frenchy.
He'll pick up from 296 all the way to Combat Outpost.
Rapico, 34 and married, may have been born to be a Marine officer. He was first in his class in Ranger School. When we met him, he'd already lost 6 men, and there was something we noticed about him. As he talked with us, he never took his eyes off the potential threats to his Marines down the road. He told us the enemy was always watching, so you could never look away.
We're constantly under observation from those guys. They know where we go. They know what we like to set up. And of course, like anything else, is to avoid any kind of repetitions. Change your routes, change the building you use. Otherwise, they come out to booby trap those buildings and try to blow them up.
Rapico leads from the front, as the Marines like to say, and he's focused on getting the rest of his men home. Most often, Rapico's men never see the enemy. They don't truly know who he is or what he's fighting for. And they have never seen the enemy like this, watching an approaching American patrol and preparing to set off a roadside bomb. In Ramadi, the enemy has been pressing a vicious and effective campaign against American attempts to reach out to Iraq, especially undermining public works projects and the government. The headway is slow. Still, even with all of the resistance, Whiskey Company's commander, Pat Rapico, told us it's better to save Ramadi block by block than flatten it like Fallujah.
I think the biggest difference between here and Fallujah is, we could very well go ahead and do the same thing, bomb every building we get contact from. But then again, that's not the purpose we're here for. We try to help this, this country rebuild, this being the capital of the province.
Rapico had warned us the enemy is adapting, and sure enough, as the Marines got better avoiding IEDs, the insurgents turned to suicide bombers. We were with Rapico's men heading down Route Michigan, nearly back to Hurricane Point, when a car packed with explosives pulled up next to one of Whiskey Company's Humvees and exploded. That's what's left of the suicide bomber's vehicle. His target, the fully armored Humvee, was destroyed. A Navy corpsman treated 2 survivors, but 3 Marines were killed, including the man who helped us understand what the combat is like, the captain some called Frenchy, Pat Rapico. In his company of about 160 men, there are now 9 names in steel under the flag. In recent days, Ramadi has been more settled. They're not sure why. At Hurricane Point, the Marines are no longer fresh. Many have been to war twice now. But there is still determination. They go out the gate with purpose. They may not always know who they're fighting, but the commander told us they know what they're fighting for.
Once the first drop of blood was shed by a Marine from this battalion and from the Marine battalion before us, we had too much invested in this city, in this country, in this cause, to turn our back on it. To do so would disrespect our fallen warriors that preceded us here.
5 Marines came home this spring, but before they did, they suffered one more death in Iraq and chained the dog tag of Lance Corporal Richard Clifton below the flag.